This session is recorded, of course. We are going to have Eliran to answer questions on the chat. So if you have any questions, please ask via the chat. In the end of this meeting, we will have a room for questions and answers. So, and of course, since we're not a lot of people, so you can also open your mic in the middle and ask away if it's not a short one. That's it. We're gonna have another one at 4 o'clock, and we are going to begin our session now. So, as I said, thank you for joining. We're gonna start with some theoretical information about the VMS. So of course, we're going to do this part very fast. As you already know, we have the solution, a solution for a managed network, to a central system in order to control our CCTV, our cameras and devices. We have a lot of hardware. We have the management server, which we have one of the big one and the smaller one, storage servers, transfer servers, decoders, and joystick and keyboards. Compatibility, reliability, and quick setup, those are the advantages why we prefer to use Provision-ISR products, homemade products, because they are installed on Linux, which means that they will work with a better compatibility with one another instead of start making a puzzle out of different pieces. A quick setup, everything is pre-installed. So if you get a small server, you don't have to install it on the Windows. You don't have to spend time and deal with antivirus software and other kinds of firewalls that might come in the way. So we just pre-installed and you just start to handle it. Operative effectiveness will be improved, of course, since it doesn't have a computer. So if you use a small server, then there is nothing else that is installed on the system than the system itself. The pricing is very fair. Of course, talk to the distributor about it, to our sales people about it. One-stop tech support, this thing when you have an issue with a device, then it tells you, okay, go to the other company because you have a decoder of company X and you have a storage server of company Y. No, in this case, you have only one place to call, which is Provision-ISR. The architecture goes like this. We have cameras like in any other installation. This is the simple architecture. We have the cameras and we have the recording device. When we use the Ossia VMS, the recording is going to be optional. We will not discuss it because we're not going to do all of the session here. So the recording device will record 3 cameras. The management server has 4 main tasks. Device database, it controls the devices themselves, permissions for those devices, user database. Every user that you will create on the Ossia VMS will be saved on the management server. There is only one management server. User permission and authentication, of course, and device database synchronization. If you create a face database, for example, it will be saved on the management server. There are 2 management server models. One of them is the bigger one, which we just saw, and the other one, the OC-MSCL-S. Of course, you can also install the management server on a PC client, which of course is not very recommended since it doesn't run Linux. It runs another Windows operating system or Mac operating system, which is not the mother operating system, and it has a lot of other tasks to do as well, not focus only on the CCTV. Okay. The decoder's part will be to show the cameras up to 144 different video channels, to display them on multiple screens all at once. The main idea is to take the load out of the PC. You have a PC, you want to deal with the more important tasks of operating the system and managing pop-ups of alarms and etc. So, but if you want also to have videos to be displayed 24/7 on multiple screens, then this is the solution, because the decoder does nothing else but showing video in 3 ways. It has live view, alarm pop-ups, and playback. Those are the 3 options that you can do with the decoder. Storage server, of course, if you want to store your recordings on somewhere safe, you want to have a large capacity, then the storage server can contain up to 16 HDDs, 8 terabyte each HDD, so it gives you a lot of capacity to deal with. And of course, you can also use RAID 1, 5, 6, or RAID 10. Okay, transfer server has a lot of tasks. We're going to deal with that later. Okay, so this was the theory. This was the first theoretical part, okay, about the VMS. And now what I'm going to do is to jump straight into our OC-MSCL-S, which is basically this guy right here, where it says client. Let me just close this one. Okay, so the client fills two different. The client fills two different roles. One of them is the management server. The other one, it can be a client. So we're actually now connected into the HDMI of this small server, which is also a client. Okay, this is what we can see now. It has an independent mouse, as you can see. I will remove the PC mouse. It has two working methods, client mode and server mode. We're going to start with the client, okay? When we are using it as a client, then basically we are connected into a server. Now, luckily, we have a server already on this LAN. Okay, this is its IP address. What we need to do when we connect to a server is to fill the username, okay, and fill the password, and of course the IP address and the port, how it connects to the management server. Only one port. So if you will want to do it from the internet, all we have to do is one port forwarding into the management server. Okay. Of course, we're gonna use admin. If you give this client to an end client that doesn't have to have a admin privileges, we will create another user for him, and he will use this client only. So I'm pressing the login button, and we are logging into the big management server, which already has a lot of devices. As you can see, we have here to the left, we have a lot of devices. Everything is exactly what you are used to from the local interface, exactly the same. Okay, we have the Ossia VMS with all of its options, with the resource management, the people management, and the electronic map. You can set it up, and you can see it, and you can do whatever you want. But you are connected as a client. Okay, this client is as small as a shoebox maybe, and you can put it in their drawer. Okay. Of course, we're not going to go through all of these things, right? Because we only showing the abilities of the management server. So this is number one, and number two. Let me remove here this one. Yeah, one port is needed to connect from the client. But Eliran, please be on the chat. Okay, so next thing, I'm going to use it as a server. So in order to switch mode, what we do is to go into the system settings, and we are pressing on switch user, confirm. We don't want to save the view, and it is logging out. Now, once we are going to server mode, everything will change in the system. Okay, the system changes its interiors in order to be a server. So now, of course, we don't need to put a server, okay, IP address of a server, because this is going to be the only server. We're going to log in, and basically we are logging into the management. The server will log in into itself. As we can see down below, the IP address is 127.0.01. Okay, so now the management server is the small server is a server, and we can see that we have different, well, those are pretty much the same devices that we had, but a different device, a whole different device. And now we can use a PC or another client exactly like this one in order to connect to this management server. It will support 32 mobile clients to connect, and 7 physical clients, meaning workstation, which is actually a client or a PC. Okay, so 7 client or PC client can log in into this small server. Okay, and of course everything as we said before. Okay, now I'm going to close this window, and we are going to see you know what, maybe before that, let's switch into full screen again. We are going to see the IP address of this management server. It is 127, but this is a loopback. So of course we are looking for the IP address, the actual one, which is 72 in the end, 192.168.0.72. Okay, so we are now going to do another, we're going to show another ability that we have, which is to actually log in into the management server. We can log into this small server via the web. So let's do it. We're going to put the username and the password, and we're inside. What can we do inside? From inside the management server, we can control the ports. Okay, we can control what port. This is basically a management console. We can see what port is being used. Okay, we can configure users. We can basically create and edit users. System maintenance, we can see any technical detail regarding the device, what firmware it is. Okay, we can control the date and time. We can upgrade. Okay, we can upgrade the device straight from here. Of course, we can create a reboot or shut it down. Okay. Now, okay, next thing that we're going to do is to understand the transfer server. Okay, so we basically talked about until now we talked about the small management server. We talked about the 2 operating modes. One of them is a client, one of them it can be a server. We demonstrated both of them, how we can actually log into it and start to operate it as a management server or as a client which connects to a management server. Next, we are going to see how the transfer server is actually working. Now, the transfer server doesn't have any, you know, any web login or a local interface that we can deal with. This is a hardware that is made and designed to just work hard and transfer the videos. So we are going to understand how it operates and how it works through the presentation, and then we're going to see what we can do with it with the software. So of course we're going to do it really fast, since most of you already know it. Transfer server is possibly the most complicated component of the system, but it has a few options. We're going to see them. First of all, increasing the bandwidth. Now, many people ask me, what do you mean increasing the bandwidth? I mean, what do you mean? So it goes like this. The management server will add another 800 megabit per second to the total bandwidth. I know it is still not understood. So think of it like this. When you have the management server, the management server already contains a transfer server, which give you 800 megabit per second for transfer. So let's say that you are connecting a camera, 4 megapixel camera. This is an example for now. When we connect the 4 megapixel camera at H265, we are going to use 4 megabit per second. Okay, 4,000 kilobit per second equals to 4 megabit per second. Now, if we will use 200 of these cameras, we are going to use 800 megabit. Okay, 819,200K, which will be 800 megabit per second. So 200 cameras of 4 megapixel will finish our bandwidth. That's it. This is what we can do with one management server. Of course, you can have 2 megapixel camera and 8 megapixel camera, so the quantity of cameras is changing, but the bandwidth remains the same, and your limit is 800. Okay, so One management server will give you 800 megabits per second. As we said, you can use it already with the management server. You don't need a transfer server for this. Two transfer servers will give you a 1600 megabits per second. So you can connect 400 of those cameras. So I think that the idea is understood. You can connect another one and another one. By the way, the spec sheet of the management server can tell you how many transfer servers you can connect. If I'm not mistaken, it is 32. Okay, you can connect up to 32 storage server transfer servers, which give you a lot of bandwidth. I'm bad at math, so I'm not gonna even try to calculate it. Allowing multicast video streaming. This is the second point that the transfer server gives you. What is multicast video streaming? Let's see an example. You have a DVR or an NVR. This is the NVR, okay? You have 3 users to connect to it. This NVR is in a kindergarten and parents want to connect, okay? Three parents are connecting through their phones and they are watching a video. 3 connections are taken from the NVR. The NVR has a total number of about 10, depends on the NVR, about 10 simultaneous connections to be done by users. So 3 connections are taken from the NVR. If you use a transfer server, then the transfer server is connecting to the DVR or NVR, takes only 1 connection, and all of the users are actually connected through the architecture, through the management server, which gives the video through the transfer server. But the DVR or NVR doesn't run out of capacity for users. Okay. Third point, one-to-LAN transparency. So we are going to example it. You have a management server, not a transfer server. This is a management server, and you have, of course, this architecture is meant also to deal with one situations, not only LAN. Okay, so you can connect the management server in Massachusetts and have the cameras being in Florida. Okay, you have 3 different ones. Each one can be a different state. What will happen when we try to quick add a device, a camera? We're gonna see an empty screen. Of course, nothing is going to be detected because that the cameras are on a different network. Okay, they are in different room and different building in a different state, the cameras, so we're not going to see anything. So quick add, the device list is going to be empty. Hello, Gary. The device list is going to be empty. In order to add the cameras, the user must make port forwarding or use auto report for each one of the cameras. If you don't know what is auto report, we have it on a different webinar. Basically, the cameras are initiating the connection into the management server. Back to our example. So if we will use a transfer server, and we are going to put a transfer server in each one, can you see it? You have many transfer in this one, and in this one. So basically in each location that the cameras are, you have a transfer server. Then the transfer server will mirror all of the devices assigned to it to the quick add device list like it was in LAN. Okay, this is like a magic. In order to connect the media transfer server into the management server, there is a port forwarding need to be done, but only from the router to the transfer server, and then we add them through the management server. But then all of the 200 cameras you have on each one will be just it will be like a big VLAN. Okay, a big virtual LAN, and once you press the quick add, you're going to see something like this. Okay, this is an actual image from how we search when you have a lot of transfer servers scattered around and being added into the management server. Okay, fourth point that the transfer server will give you is actually more geographic. So let's see. In standard configuration, without a transfer server, okay, we have something like this. We have the management server. It is in one of the states. Okay, we have 3 NVRs, 1, 2, 3. And we have a client which is somewhere else. Okay. what happens is that the videos from the NVRs are being sent into the management server, because the management server, as we said, it contains a transfer server, okay? It contains a transfer server, so the video must go through the transfer server. This is the one that does the job of throwing away the videos, of streaming the videos. Perfect. But it's not good. Why it's not good? Because if the NVRs are located in different locations, you don't want the video to be transferred in such long distances where it shouldn't. Of course, it will affect the bandwidth speed, packet loss, which will cause to image lagging or frame loss, or even disconnections, and generally low connection. So what we will do in this kind of a situation is, of course, we are going to select a transfer server. We're going to put physical transfer servers in each location. Okay, we can have 10 NVRs in here, 20 in here, and 15 in here. And all of the transfer servers will send the videos directly from the NVR to the client itself. Okay, just like this. Now, we can see here 3 different shapes of lines. We have the authentication. Okay, we have the video, which is marked in green. And we have, no, that's it. Okay, so we have 2 of them, authentication and video. So the authentication will still go to the management server. The authentication will still drive the long way, but the authentication is a few bytes. It's not important. It's not affecting anything. The video is the real deal. The video is what takes all of the bandwidth, and this is why we want to have a transfer server in the right spot. Okay. Okay, transfer server has a couple of ways to help us. One of them is load balancing. Without load balancing, you have the videos coming from the NVR. They are going into one of the Ethernet connections of the transfer server, and all of those megabytes, all of this information is going to be transferred to the client through the same LAN. It gives a lot of a load into the transfer server. We don't want that. You can have the transfer server being in a load balancing mode. Then, of course, all of the information will go into one of the ports and will be sent used other ports. Okay, so it will get equal amounts of information through each one of the other ports, which will give you a lot of silent. Okay, it will just work better. Okay, network redundancy. You can have multiple IP addresses into the same transfer server, connected into two different IP addresses into each port, connected into 2 different switches with 2 different routers. So even to 2 different ISPs. So if one of them is failing for what reason, you always have the other one to back it up. Okay, so it gives you another way to control everything and to have a safety net. Okay, that's it. I think it took a bit longer than what I anticipated. Now we are going to use what I'm using right now is the PC client. Okay, and I'm connected to the big management server. You can see down below the address, it is 190. Now I'm going to connect and show you actually how we can choose between different transfer servers. So it's very simple. We're going to go into the resource management. In resource management, one of the roles, one of the modules on the left is the media transfer server. We can see here a lot of them. We have 3 different transfer servers. One of them is actually the management server itself. One of them is an actual transfer server, and the other one is another transfer server that we have here. So, of course, what we can do is that we can just choose. We can see each transfer server, what is the number of channels and devices that are currently on it. So if you will go to the encoding device, we can just choose all of this. Okay, all of the devices that we want, and we can select a different transfer server for them. So we can just choose all of the countries of all of the NVRs that are in Louisiana and assign them to the transfer server in Louisiana and do the same thing for different devices. This is how we can actually control where from the video is going to be sent. By the way, if we are using a storage server, then the transfer server is actually moving the video to the storage server as well. So we will want also to have the video being transferred to the storage server through a transfer server which is close to it, and of course it has to have a high bandwidth in order to send all of those videos. Okay. Next subject is I was about to show on the presentation the storage server, but I can see that we're already more than halfway into the session, so I'm going to skip into the more interesting decoder. Now I already have a setup, okay, for the decoder, so I'm not going to show actually how to. I'm not going to show how to set it up, because then my settings will be lost. But we're going to, yes, we're going to set it up, but I'm going to show you the steps, how we set a decoder up. So we are starting by going into the resource management. We're going into the decoder. Usually if the decoder is on the same LAN, okay, then it's going to be, once you press add, then it will just show here. Okay, the VMS will identify it, and then you can just choose it, give it a password, and edit. Of course, you can edit manually as well. Same thing that we are doing with end devices, with the cameras and recorders. After we have the decoder on this line, it is not going to be online. Even if the IP and port is okay, and we're on the same network, and we have the right password, it's not going to be online until we are going to the TV wall management. Decoder is a part of the TV wall management. We are going inside. We are going into the TV wall settings. We create a TV wall. Okay, then we have a TV wall created. Then we are going to TV wall system settings and decoder bind configuration. In decoder bind configuration, we are going to see here the decoder offline as well. But then we are going to press edit and add a TV wall. Select the TV wall that is bind into the decoder. It is very logical. The decoder will not be online until it has a TV wall that is assigned to it, that is binded to it. Once we bind the TV wall, then everything is online, and we can start to work about. We can start to work on it. So how can we set it up? After we have the TV wall, we're going to see something like this, and on the bottom, we can see the decoder output. We have a decoder, it has 4 outputs. What we're doing is that we are actually dragging each output into the screen that we want. Okay. Now, even before that, we can initialize the screen. We can actually tell how many screens we have. We can have 8 different screens and use 2 different decoders in order to set the physical layout up. So if we have the screens from left to right, 8 of them, from left to right, we are going to do something like this. Okay, if we have it in a 4, we have 4 TV wall like me, 4 videos, 4 monitors, and we want to set them in this way. Then we're going to use the method that we want. Okay, so okay, I'm going to re-enter into it. After we done that, we are dragging the output. HDMI 1 is also VGA 1, 2, 3, and 4. We are throwing them into the screens. We save, and now we are good to go. We can now, okay, we can now and when I prefer to leave instead of be risky and delete all of those settings. In TV wall view, Okay, we have a few options. We have the video point, which will give us all of the devices we have associated with our VMS, all of the NVRs, DVRs, and cameras. Channel groups. Okay, we have a channel group that has a lot of cameras into it. Decoder input, you can connect something into the HDMI of the decoder and display it also. And TV wall plan. TV wall plan is basically a layout. You can have a layout. You can create a layout which will tell you, which will show what's going on the different screens. Okay, so each layout has you can save what will be the layout. On monitor number one, we can have divided to 4. Monitor number 2, only 1 channel. But you know what? I can talk until tomorrow. The best thing to do is to actually see it. So what you guys can see right now is me and 3 different monitors. Okay, 3 different monitors which seem to be off, but actually they are not. Now what I'm going to do, since you cannot see it, I will try to, you know what, let's try to show all of them all at once. Okay, so we can see all of the 3 monitors. I'm connecting, I'm pressing, for example, I'm going to just drag a camera, okay, into the second screen. And you can see it shows on the mainstream on the top. Of course, I can drag another camera and I can see it also. I can take another camera to the other screen, to the left one, as you can see right now, and take another one and maybe another one. So you get the idea. You can drag cameras as much as you want into the display and show them. And of course, you can clear the TV wall in one press and you can see nothing. Now, the layout, once you save a layout, a TV wall plan, then, one second. Once you save a TV wall plan, you can just double click the plan that you already saved. And you're going to see what you saved on this plane. So in the plane number 3, which is right here, we saved only 3 images. On plane number 1, we already saved a lot more. So you can see how fast also it reacts, the system. Plane number 2 already have a lot of different devices. You can see we're pretty much on the maximum decoding capability of the NVR. Of course, some cameras are offline. Okay, this is why we have black spots. I just took the area and throw it into the camera. So yeah, everything is responsive. Of course, we have another monitor, but it is not connected. You can connect 4 monitors, not only 3 like I have here, but you can connect 4 different monitors and show all of them all at once. Okay, now every window, I'm going to try to do this one very quick, but every window meaning every video channel of every monitor. Okay, all of this is one monitor. This 1, 2, 3, 4 is one monitor. We can see them separated by a white line between one monitor to another. Now you can choose between alarm window, okay, into a playback window. Okay, so you can also view playback and have alarms to pop up on the decoder itself. You can have a screen which is divided into, for example, you can divide it into 36, okay, and you can have all of these 36 channels to be set as a alarm window. And whenever there is an alarm, which you can of course set by going into the alarm linkage for every channel. Okay, for every channel you can just choose. And you can, one of the triggers is TV wall. Okay, so once this event has happened, the TV wall will display the channel that you want into the decoder. Okay, so you can just do that, and as soon as there is a motion or a DTA detection, a human detection, vehicle detection, face or LPR, whatever you want, then it will just pop on the windows that are set to be alarm windows. Is everything clear until now? I'm asking if everything is clear. Okay. So if no one responds, I guess that everything is okay and everything is understood. Okay. Next part will be the next part will be the keyboard. Now you can see, okay, what you can see right now is the keyboard. Okay, IP key 02, it is right here. After you set it up, after you have it set up to communicate with the management server, with the Ossia VMS, then what happens is that you can control the decoder using the IP key. So one example, we're going to choose window, for example, window number 2. Okay, and we're going to choose camera number 1. And of course, we can divide it only to one monitor. Now, you can control the IP key. You can have a full screen. You can have a different layout, for example. Okay, you can have a lot of things. Now, when you have a PTZ chosen on the screen, then you can control it. Okay, so I can zoom in, zoom out. I can go right, and I can go above and left and right and everything. Also, it's good that I'm not a pilot. I would probably be bad at that. Okay. Another thing that you can do is that you can go into playback using the keyboard. So right now we are in playback. I don't know if you guys can see the small clock on the top, but it says 11:44, and now it is 11:44 still, but 11:33. So basically you can go into the playback and start to see what happened in the playback itself using the keyboard. Also, you can go back and front. It's not the most intuitive way to go into playback, but it can be certainly a fast way to search for nearby playback. For example, you can't go like for yesterday or a month ago using the keyboard. It will take a lot of presses like this. Of course, this is not very intuitive, but if you want to have sorry, if you want to have a quick access to the playback, then you can just simply do it from here, and we can just exit and go back into the live view. Now, using the keyboard, you can also choose the layouts that we saw before. So in one click of a button, we can access to layout number 1, layout number 2 with all of the cameras in here, layout number 3, layout number 3. Yes. Okay, pretty simple. It just demands a little bit of pre-planning. Of course, while we are here, we can also choose window number 9. We can see colored numbers of channels. So we choose window number 9, and then we can control the PTZ, which is associated into window number 9. Now, maybe window number 3 is a PTZ as well. So I'm going to try to choose it. And yes, it is also PTZ. So you use it and you can choose which PTZ you're going to use. Okay, pretty simple, pretty awesome, and very, very good for making your operators much more professional in doing everything, basically, because once you have a keyboard, you have an ability to control your PTZs and your cameras and have a quick access to playback, changing layouts instead of going into the Ossia VMS, which is also an easy way. But of course, that the keyboard is much more professional. It's much more fun to press one key and just to jump into the layout that you want, which of course I did 12, and no, I wanted 2. Okay. Okay, everyone. I think we finished in time. If anybody has any questions regarding to everything we just saw, you're welcome to ask away. I can.
Sorry. Would you able to give us a bit of an idea on the ports that needs to be open? You said 1 port, but last time spoken to you, there were like 6 or 7 ports on the server. I'm talking about a small Ossia server.
Yeah, for the management.
There's a few ways, I guess. Of course, there's a management server, but there is an app for it, I guess. And how many how many ports do you need to open for that app to work?
For the, I talked about the client. When you try to connect through a client into a management server, then the only port is the one I changed it to 11,000. But of course, you have the default one is 6,003, I guess.
But that's through a client installed on a computer, yes?
That's for a client also that is a small, the small client. This is what I was demonstrating.
But a client. What about the mobile device, or it is possible to log and view via a browser?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Can I log from a browser and view the images straight into the VMS or not?
You can, but I'm not sure about the amount of ports you need in that case. I was talking about a client, a physical client, which is connected to the server. For the browser, there is also an HTTP port. Okay, so I will give you an answer in private for this one. I guess
for
it's
the
2
app?
ports. For the app also uses the TCP port, so I'm pretty sure that is also the 6003 port. Not the 6,000 ports, but the 6003 port. Which need to be transferred, but I'm also gonna, if I'm not giving you any answer, then it's this. But I will check it afterwards.
Okay. If you're using the small server, as I'll give you a scenario, we have 3 NVR, 32 channels, 80 cameras. They want to be able to watch all of them on one screen.
How many channels? 80?
80.
80. They need a very strong computer. The decoder can give you 36 maximum for one HDMI, meaning you have 144, but 4 monitors.
Okay, so the server itself can show how many? Just the server.
Server can show 36 per channel. The
so
management,
you can do, there is one HDMI. So one HDMI, one RG, the VGA, and each one of them can show 36?
Yes, but it's the management, this we're talking about the small, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The Excel, not Excel, the small one.
No,
Yeah,
the smaller one. The smaller one will give you, once you connect another one, they need to be 1080p. Okay, VGA and HDMI need to be a 1080p. It gives you 36 each, but very important, once you have a management server, once you are a management and it is a server, then the server takes a lot of resources from the hardware. Okay, RAM, CPU, etc. So if you try also to decode 72 channels, it's not gonna work. If you use it as a client, which all it does is to to be a client and connects to the management server, and it doesn't have to be the transfer server also. You understand what I mean? Then yes, then it will work fluently. But keep it on 1080p. If it is 4K, 4K will also demand more resources from the system. So this is why we strongly suggest that for those cases, either to use a super strong computer to be able to decode this amount of channels if you want more than 36 for one monitor, or use the decoder. The decoder has 2 outputs, output 1 and 3 are 4K. So you can use the decoder in order to to see in 4K for the monitors.
How many, what's the most you can see on one screen on a decoder?
36.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, Ran.
That's okay.
Because it makes me provide a lot of information that in otherwise probably won't be said. So it's blessed. It's a blessing. You're a blessing, Ran.
No, I'm not blessing. It's just that we had one of the integrator had exactly the same install. So yeah,
I understand.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. David Siboni.
Thank you, Mr. Ran, and everyone who joined us in this webinar today. We have another one at 4 o'clock Israel time. Hopefully to see you guys also. You can join if you want. It's gonna be on the same subject. No one. Okay. Okay, it was nice to see you all. Hope to see you on the next webinar. This recording will be sent. This webinar is recorded. It will be sent as a Dropbox link later on this day. Hope you guys enjoyed. I know I have. And we're going to see you next time in our next webinars. Thank you, guys. Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.